Hello, welcome to my channel. Today I just want to talk a little bit about Utah and how they treat or affect children. And so, you know, there was a time not too long ago when the church and the state got together and said they were going to help the homeless people, and so they talked about mini homes and stuff like that so that they could get them off the street. When that happened, then other states, when they had a homeless problem, they just said, look, here's a $100 debit card, here's a bus ticket to Salt Lake City, they'll help you. So pretty soon people from all over the United States started coming to Salt Lake City thinking that they was going to get put in their own home or mini home or something off of the street. So then the state and the church are like, well, you know, we're willing to help 4 or 5, but we're not 45 or 455. So anyway, so that kind of went off of the burner. And of course, if they put them in jail, they got to feed them. So they really don't like to put them in jail unless they do something that requires it. So what they do is, you know, they just harass them and make them move and move them all around and stuff like that. Anyway, that's the homeless. And now the state, of course, not just Utah, but all 50 states, you know, they have child protective services. And I looked it up, and I'm going to put the references with this video because there's a couple of things that you're just not going to believe if I don't give you the actual official website that tells you what I'm telling you is actually 100% true. Anyway, in Utah, on any given day, there's between 2,400 and 2,800 children, minors, that are wards of the state. That is, they've been taken from their parents pending sales to another family. Selling children is big business in Utah. Well, it is everywhere. I mean, that's the purpose of child protective services. And once in a while, they actually, you know, confiscate a kid that is better for being confiscated. But what's that, 1 out of 25,000? Typically, you know, it's just some bullshit. The parents don't want to call them by a proper pronoun or something like that. And I know one time when my kids, I was living in California, and my kids were 3 or 4 years old. The neighbors across the street playing with the neighbors, and the neighbors had some treats, and my kids said, well, we want some. And they said, well, you got to go home and have your own treats. And they said, well, we don't have any food in our house. So they called Child Protective Services on me, and they came over, and, you know, I didn't want to let her in. She says, look, you can either let me in and look at your fridge and cupboards, or else I'll have a cop here in a minute. And I am coming in, you know. So I gave in, and she come in and seen we had plenty of food, and she left, and I never heard from her again. But that just goes to show that on somebody's allegation, guns appear. I mean, you know, just, you know, I mean, it's an allegation. There's no, you know, I mean, it's just, that's the world we live in. But aside from the children that are taken, and then of course their parents are homeless, and some of them, you know, if their kids aren't in the home, they, you know, lose their welfare. I don't know how all that works, but anyway, that's only part of the problem. Then the other thing is that there's this booming business in Utah, and it's only in Utah. Other states might have, a portion of it, but Utah's went full blown. There's over 100 different businesses in the state of Utah whose job is to reprogram children. Over 100. over 100 businesses, and each of them might take up to 1,000 children. So they come from all over the United States, maybe all over the world. And you've probably heard of them. You know, there's different ones you hear about. You know, they take them out in the woods and somebody starved to death or something. You hear, you know, how they kill the kids every once in a while. But anyway, so the idea behind this is, you know, you've already took your kid and the doctor gave him some ADHD pills and that made him psychotic, and now you don't like how he is, and so you send him to these 100 different businesses in Utah who will reprogram, is what they call it. Will reprogram your children. And so these are not children that got confiscated. These are children that the parents voluntarily sent them to get reprogrammed. Big business. Hundreds of millions of dollars in Utah. Big, big, big business. They're coming from all over. And there's as many as 100,000 of these children in Utah that are being reprogrammed. So anyway, you know, it's just, it's crazy because Utah, a lot of people think that is a conservative state, and that, you know, mostly they're brain dead. They're mostly a bunch of brain dead sheep that are trained not to think. Now, it's one thing when the schools teach children not to think but what to think, but in Utah they're not supposed to think at all. And so they're just supposed to follow this guy that is supposed to talk to God, and he's never actually said anything that God told him, but people believe he's bullshit. Anyway, so that's kind of the way the state goes, and the state isn't all Mormons, of course, but there's a definite Mormon influence, and so, you know, I've talked to different kids, and you know, they say, well, as long as you're a Mormon, you can fit in. You know, so you don't have to be a Mormon, but you better cuddle up to one. You know. So anyway, I don't want to spend all day on this. I'm going to put a bunch of links to this because it's just crazy. Utah passed a law. You're just going to have to look at these things. I will say there's one little thing though, and that is that, you know, Zuckerberg has kind of, well, he admitted to Congress the other day that he actually manipulated the last election. And so, you know, nobody doubts his ability to change what people view as truth. And so then you combine that with, in the state of Utah, the Governor Cox, his power, his evil control. You know, he got paid, of course a lot of governors did, you know, millions of dollars to lock down the cities over nothing. Just bullshit, you know, a pretend problem. And so, anyway, so what's happening is there's some people, they're saying, you know, when you combine Zuckerberg and Governor Cox in Utah, it's what you get, the Cox-Zucker effect. And anyway, you know, I'm not going to, I need to close this video, but just go to the links that I'm going to provide, and it'll blow your mind. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.